Imagine walking into a room with 10 millionaires. They all have the same amount of money. One inherited it, one built a $1 billion company, one quietly invested for 40 years, one became rich by pure luck, one is secretly drowning in debt, one looks completely broke but owns more assets than everyone else combined. Now here's the strange part. If you met all 10 on the same day, you'd probably guess the richest one completely wrong. Because becoming a millionaire isn't one path, it's 10 completely different games. Some create wealth, some protect wealth, some multiply wealth, and some only look rich until everything falls apart. Today, we're breaking down every type of millionaire, how they got there, how they think, why some stay rich forever while others lose everything. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which type you are and which type you should become. Welcome to Stickman Explains Money. Let's begin. Type 1, the self-made millionaire. Meet Jack. Jack wasn't born rich, no trust fund, no wealthy parents, no lottery ticket, just years of solving problems that people were willing to pay for. Maybe he started a software company, maybe he opened a local business, maybe he created an online brand. The details don't matter, the pattern does. Self-made millionaires don't ask, how can I make more money? They ask, how can I create more value? That's a huge difference. Employees usually trade time for money. Self-made millionaires build systems that keep producing value even when they're sleeping. Think about it, a restaurant owner doesn't cook every meal forever. A software founder doesn't answer every customer forever. A YouTuber doesn't film one video every time someone watches. Eventually, the system works without them. That's the goal, not working harder, building something that works harder than you. Most people think self-made millionaires are huge risk takers. Actually, many of them become rich because they're incredibly good at managing risk. They test ideas, they fail cheaply, they learn quickly, then they double down on what works. To everyone else, their success looks sudden. But behind the scenes, it usually took 10 years. People love watching the final chapter. Nobody watches the first 1,000 boring pages. That's why self-made millionaires often seem lucky. But luck usually arrived after years of invisible work. So, if the self-made millionaire builds wealth, what happens if someone never had to build anything at all? Meet the next type. Type 2, the inherited millionaire. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out someone left you $50 million. Sounds like the perfect ending. Except for many people, it's actually the beginning of the problem. Inherited millionaires are often misunderstood. Some people assume they did nothing. Others assume life is permanently easy. Reality is much more complicated. There are two kinds. The first protects the family fortune. The second destroys it. History is full of families that built enormous wealth only to lose everything within 3 generations. The first generation builds, the second maintains, the third spends. Why does this happen? Because making money and keeping money are completely different skills. Someone who spent 30 years building a business understands sacrifice. Someone who receives that business at 21 might never experience the same lessons. Without discipline, wealth slowly disappears, luxury becomes normal, expenses quietly explode, bad investments pile up, and eventually the fortune that took decades to create vanishes. But not every inherited millionaire fails. The smartest ones treat inheritance like responsibility, not permission. They study investing, they hire experts, they protect the assets. Instead of asking, what can I buy? They ask, how do I make sure my grandchildren are still wealthy? Because real wealth isn't measured by how much you inherit, it's measured by how long it survives. Some millionaires inherit money, some build companies, but the next type becomes rich in a way that's almost boring, and that's exactly why it works. Type 3, the investor millionaire. Meet Sarah. She doesn't own a famous company, she isn't a celebrity, she never won the lottery, she simply invested again and again and again, for decades. Here's the mistake most people make. They think investing is about finding one magical stock. Investor millionaires know something different. The biggest secret isn't choosing the perfect investment, it's giving time enough time. Compounding is almost invisible until suddenly it is. Imagine pushing a tiny snowball down a hill. At first, nothing happens, then it gets a little bigger, then much bigger. Eventually, it's impossible to stop. Money behaves the same way. The first $100,000 often feels painfully slow. The next million can arrive much faster because your money starts working alongside you. Eventually, your investments earn more money than your actual job. Investor millionaires rarely look impressive. They don't always drive sports cars, they don't post motivational quotes. Sometimes they look completely average, but quietly their assets grow every single year. While everyone else is chasing quick money, they're patiently building permanent money. And patience is one of the rarest financial skills on earth. So far, we've met the builder, the heir, and the investor. But the next millionaire might surprise you the most. Because this person became rich without creating a company, without inheriting money, and sometimes without even having a traditional job. And believe it or not, this type is growing faster than ever before. Type 4, the creator millionaire. 20 years ago, becoming a millionaire usually meant building a company. Today, one person, one laptop, and one internet connection can build a business that reaches millions. Meet Alex. He doesn't manufacture cars, he doesn't own factories, he doesn't have thousands of employees. He creates ideas, videos, courses, books, newsletters, podcasts, software. Every piece of content becomes another employee working for him 24 hours a day. That's the biggest shift of the internet age. Attention became an asset. The more trust you build, the more opportunities appear. A sponsorship, a product launch, an online course, affiliate income, a community, the audience comes first, the money follows. But here's what most people never see. For every creator making $1 million, there are thousands posting videos that nobody watches. The successful ones don't simply upload. They study psychology, storytelling, retention, curiosity, human behavior. Because in today's world, attention is the most valuable currency. If you can earn attention ethically, you can eventually earn money, and if you can keep attention, you've built something even more valuable. Creators don't sell products first, they earn trust first, then everything else becomes easier. But not every millionaire earns money online. Some never become famous, some don't even have customers. Their wealth comes from owning something much simpler: land. Type 5, the real estate millionaire. Imagine buying a small apartment, not to live in, but to rent. Every month, someone else helps pay your mortgage. A few years later, the property becomes more valuable, the loan becomes smaller, the rent becomes higher. Now repeat that process again and again. That's how many real estate millionaires quietly build wealth. They don't always earn the highest salaries. Instead, they own assets that produce income. While they're asleep, rent still arrives. While they're on vacation, their properties continue working. That's the dream of passive income. Well, sort of, because real estate isn't actually passive. Tenants move out, roofs leak, pipes burst, markets crash, interest rates change, property taxes increase. Owning real estate is less like buying a money machine and more like running a business. The successful investors understand this. They calculate everything: cash flow, maintenance, vacancy, risk. Emotion rarely enters the equation. A beautiful house isn't always a good investment. A boring apartment with steady cash flow often is. Millionaires buy numbers, everyone else buys emotions. Some people buy buildings, others buy businesses. But the next millionaire buys something much smaller: pieces of companies. Type 6, the stock market millionaire. Imagine owning a tiny piece of hundreds of companies. Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Coca-Cola. Every time those businesses grow, your investment grows with them. That's the basic idea. Simple, but not easy. Because the stock market tests one emotion more than any other: patience. When prices go up, people become greedy. When prices fall, people panic. The average investor buys high and sells low. Millionaires usually do the opposite. They understand something called emotional investing, or rather, they avoid it. The market is full of noise: breaking news, predictions, experts, social media influencers promising impossible returns. Most of it disappears within weeks. Great businesses often survive for decades. That's where long-term investors focus. They don't try to predict tomorrow. They prepare for the next 20 years. The stock market rewards discipline far more than intelligence. Some of the wealthiest investors in history didn't have supernatural abilities. They simply refused to let emotions make financial decisions. That's much harder than it sounds. Quick question: out of the 6 millionaire types we've covered, which one surprised you the most? Pause for a second and leave your answer in the comments. I'm curious to see which mindset people admire the most and which one they'd never want to become. And if you're enjoying videos that make money feel simple instead of confusing, you're going to love what's coming next. Because the remaining millionaire types become much stranger. One of them earns fortunes from taking enormous risks. Another looks rich but is secretly one bad month away from losing everything. And one type almost nobody notices, even though they quietly outperform everyone else. So make sure you're subscribed to Stickman Explains Money, because understanding money is a lot cheaper than learning these lessons the expensive way. We've met the builder, the heir, the investor, the creator, the real estate owner, and the stock market investor. But next we're entering the world of high-risk millionaires, where fortunes are made in months and sometimes disappear just as quickly. Type 7, the risk-taker millionaire. Imagine standing in front of two doors. Behind the first door is a guaranteed paycheck. Behind the second is a 90% chance of failure and a 10% chance of changing your life forever. Most people choose the first door. Risk-taker millionaires walk toward the second, not because they love gambling, because they understand something most people don't: not all risks are equal. Starting a business in your 20s, that's risky. Putting your life savings into a random meme coin because someone on social media said, "Trust me," that's not risk, that's recklessness. The best risk-takers calculate the downside before they dream about the upside. They ask, "If this fails, can I recover?" instead of, "How rich could I become?" Some of the world's biggest fortunes came from people who looked crazy at first. Launching a new product, moving to a different country, quitting a comfortable job, starting over from zero. At the time, everyone thought they were making a mistake. Years later, people called them visionaries. Success has a funny way of rewriting history. But while some millionaires embrace risk, the next type avoids it almost completely. Type 8, the frugal millionaire. Picture two neighbors. One drives a brand new luxury car, the other drives a 10-year-old sedan. One wears designer clothes, the other wears the same hoodie every weekend. Who do you think is richer? Most people pick the first, and they're often wrong. Some millionaires don't look wealthy at all. In fact, they look surprisingly ordinary. They don't spend money to impress strangers, they spend money to buy freedom. When they receive a raise, they don't immediately upgrade their lifestyle. They invest the difference. Year after year. This is called avoiding lifestyle inflation. It's one of the simplest ideas in personal finance and one of the hardest to practice. Because every promotion whispers, "You deserve something nicer." A bigger apartment, a newer car, a more expensive vacation. None of those purchases are automatically bad. The problem is when your spending grows just as fast as your income. The frugal millionaire breaks that cycle. They understand a powerful truth: every dollar you don't waste is another employee working for your future. They don't ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "Is this worth delaying financial freedom?" That's a completely different question. Now let's meet the opposite. Someone who looks incredibly rich but isn't nearly as wealthy as people think. Type 9, the fake millionaire. You've probably seen them online. Luxury cars, private jets, designer watches, perfect vacations. Everything looks successful, but appearances can be expensive, very expensive. Some people spend years trying to look like millionaires instead of becoming one. A leased supercar, a financed watch, a rented mansion for a photo shoot, an endless cycle of payments just to impress people they'll never meet. Here's the irony: actual millionaires often spend less time proving they're rich than fake millionaires do, because real wealth doesn't need constant advertising. Money is quiet, debt is loud. That doesn't mean everyone with luxury items is pretending. Far from it. Many wealthy people genuinely enjoy expensive things. The difference is simple: they buy luxury after building wealth, not instead of building wealth. The fake millionaire reverses that order, and that's where the trap begins. So far we've met the builder, the heir, the investor, the creator, the property owner, the stock investor, the calculated risk taker, the quiet saver, and the fake millionaire. Only one type remains. And in many ways, it's the most powerful of them all. Because this millionaire doesn't rely on luck, inheritance, viral success, or even perfect investments. Instead, they've mastered one skill that quietly connects every other millionaire on this list. And once you notice it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Type 10, the compounder millionaire. Let's play a game. Imagine I give two people the exact same amount of money. The first person tries to double it as fast as possible. The second person grows it slowly, year after year, without missing a single year. Who wins? Most people instinctively choose the first, but history tells a different story. The wealthiest fortunes on earth weren't usually built overnight. They were built through one simple principle: compounding. Not just compounding money, compounding knowledge, compounding relationships, compounding reputation, compounding skills. Every day they get just a little better. Every year their network becomes a little stronger. Every investment grows a little larger. every mistake becomes another lesson. Eventually, those tiny improvements stop looking tiny. Think about planting a tree. For years, it barely changes. Then one day, it's impossible to imagine the landscape without it. Wealth works the same way. People admire the tree, very few admire the years it spent growing underground. That's why compounders rarely chase shortcuts. They know shortcuts usually cut short the journey. Instead, they ask a different question. What decision will still make sense 10 years from now? That single question changes everything. Now look back at every millionaire we've discussed. The self-made millionaire, the inherited millionaire, the creator, the investor, the real estate owner, the stock investor, the risk taker, the frugal millionaire, the fake millionaire, the compounder. At first, they all seem completely different, but there's one pattern almost every lasting millionaire shares. They own assets instead of only earning income. That's the real difference. Employees earn paychecks. Millionaires build or own things that continue producing value. A business, stocks, real estate, intellectual property, a loyal audience, a brand, software, royalties, even time itself. Eventually, their assets begin working harder than they do, and that's when wealth starts accelerating. So, which type describes you today? Maybe you're still building your first skill. Maybe you're investing your first $100. Maybe you're starting a business. Maybe you're creating content. Or maybe you're somewhere between several types. The truth is, you don't have to fit into only one category. Most successful people evolve. They start as employees, become creators, invest their profits, buy assets, build businesses, then spend decades protecting what they built. Wealth isn't an identity, it's a journey. If this video teaches one thing, let it be this. Stop asking, how can I get rich? Start asking, what kind of wealthy person am I becoming? Because the habits you build long before your first million are usually the same habits that determine whether you ever reach it. Money amplifies who you already are. If you're disciplined, money rewards discipline. If you're impatient, money magnifies impatience. If you're constantly learning, wealth has room to grow. The goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to build a life where money creates choices, not stress. If you made it this far, you're already doing something most people won't. You're learning how money actually works instead of just chasing it. And that's exactly what this channel is about. Here at Stickman Explains Money, we break down the world's biggest money ideas into simple animations that anyone can understand. No complicated jargon, no fake gurus, just clear explanations one Stickman at a time. So if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Subscribe to Stickman Explains Money, and turn on notifications because the next video might completely change the way you think about money. Until then, keep learning, keep investing in yourself, and remember, the richest asset you'll ever own is your mind. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to watch next videos.